exciting. I didn't prepare. I really wanted to go live last night and talk to you guys about. Tell you what, while you're in here, if anybody's in here and is actually going to be here for the thing later, I do want to give you guys a couple pieces of information while I'm here. So today's case is Trump v. Slaughter. This is a case about separation of powers. And it's kind of a funny one because the person that we're talking about, Ms. Slaughter, was fired from a job that it explicitly pretty much says she can't be fired from. Not for the reason she was fired anyway. So what's the problem? Well, the president's people say that Congress didn't have the right to write that law that way. They weren't allowed to say he's not allowed to fire her. And there's this big kind of growing theory among certain people that the president's right to fire kind of anybody he wants is really broad, and that Congress isn't kind of ever allowed to say that. So can Congress limit executive power is exactly the question. And the reason this is so confusing is that the way that Article 2 starts is very vague. And what it says is, the executive power shall be vested in the president. What the heck does that mean? And this has been argued about for 200 years. And I find fascinating that Madison and Hamilton essentially stopped being friends over this very question. Because they go from being the guys who wrote the Federalist Papers together. I couldn't figure out why. All of a sudden, they just hate each other, and I couldn't quite understand. It's over basically that question. Because Hamilton thinks that that means the president can do anything he wants, and Madison does not. Madison thinks that Congress is essentially the main engine of the government. The president is just sort of there to do what Congress says. And that when they say the executive power, they mean the power to execute whatever Congress says. So this is the back and forth. Unitary executive theory is this more Hamiltonian theory that the president can kind of do anything he wants. And this is what we're going to argue about today. Can the president... Actually, it's not can the president do anything he wants in this case. It's can Congress restrict the president's powers when it comes to firing people. And so that's what we're going to talk about. Now, here's what's going to be pretty cool here. If you guys watched the morning report, I put this in there, but I find this really interesting. The biggest supporter of unitary executive theory on the court is Alito. Alito is hardcore unitary executive theory. The attorney for Ms. Slaughter is Alito's former clerk. For those of you who don't know, a clerk's like, a clerk is a lawyer, but a very young lawyer, and an assistant, kind of a lackey, somebody who sort of like follows you around for a year, and they're very, very close. So they spend a lot of time together. Thank you, Allison. So these guys were really close. He was also a clerk to Kavanaugh. So that's the thing. Kavanaugh's not far behind, but he was clerks to both of them. So that's going to be really interesting. And then the other thing is, Barrett has been asked repeatedly how she feels about this, and she ducks the question every time. So what does that mean? We don't know. Thank you, Allie. We don't know. We're going to find out. The last thing to keep an eye on, Gorsuch is really into separation of powers. Like, he's hardcore about separation of powers. Thank you very much. And so keep your eye on him, because he is potentially going to be the opposite of everybody else here, or what you'd expect for a conservative. Thank you, Margot. So who knows how this is going to go. So that aside, I keep harping on this. Nobody is talking about this case tomorrow. Nobody's talking about it. And this maybe the biggest case of the year. I've said that a couple of times, so I don't want to be hyperbolic. But National Republican Senate Campaign v. FEC is another swipe, another Citizens United swipe. So this is another really, really big one. I have been reading case law all weekend. I mean, I started on Friday night. I did nothing but read case law on that case for 2 days because there's so much to learn. I know, major issue Gorsuch. There was so much to learn, and I wanted to be as ready as I could be. I want to try to teach you guys as much as I can about it before then, but I don't have a lot of time. So we'll see how that works out. But do look into it a little bit. I think that's going to be a really big one that I would try to keep your eye on. So that's tomorrow. And then Wednesday has one case that honestly is, it even for me might be a little boring. But the other case is about somebody who has been given a capital punishment sentence. And so the cutoff for receiving capital punishment is an IQ of 70. Okay? This guy has had 5 IQ tests. And they were 78, 75, 74, 74, and 72. Okay, all above 70. But his 72 score was 72 plus or minus 3. Which means one of his scores might be below 70. Does that put him out of range to receive capital punishment? And that's going to be the question on that one, which I think is pretty interesting. Could be within or below 70 mean the same as is below 70? And what do you do when you have 5? Like if one of them had definitely been, 68 or something, okay, maybe. But 5 of them all above 70 and one of them with a margin of error below 70, what do we do? Do we err on the side? I mean, the capital punishment, you can't undo it. So it's interesting. So anyway, these are all going to be really interesting cases that I would keep your eye on. So this is the last week of week of December cases, and we're starting to get some opinions coming out as well. So as I hear those, I'll be giving those to you. I gave you one this morning in the morning report. Can Congress delegate their own constitutional power? So that's the part of the big thing here, because Gorsuch is really into the non-delegation doctrine, which I am as well, as a theoretical construct. I understand that it doesn't necessarily work in practice, and so does he, I think. But as a starting point, as an understanding that we're supposed to err on the side of non-delegation rather than the side of delegation, I think it's a very important thing to keep in the back of your head, and I know that that's something really big for him, so that's why I think we might hear about it today. We'll see. Non-delegation is like one of my favorites. Okay, like I said, I'm just stopping in for a little bit. I was just testing to make sure all the audio and video are working, and they seem to be, so that's good news. And I will be back in probably like an hour or so, and we'll get going on everything else. So get coffeeed up, and we'll get moving. All right, thanks everybody. See you in a few.